So welcome, Sophia. Thank you so much for coming today.
Hey, Christine. It is a pleasure, honor, and privilege to be here. I appreciate you inviting me to be on your podcast.
Absolutely. So, Sophia is my business coach and has been wildly helpful in my life. And we've been working together for a while here. But for those of you that don't know you, let's get started a little bit with where you're from and where you're living now and all those
Yeah,
things.
I love it. Yeah, Christine and I are tight. We like talk every week, basically. Christine's amazing. Um, but yeah, I'm born and raised in Saskatoon from Toontown. I'm a bit of a misfit, youngest of four kids. My grandparents survived bombing in World War II and immigrated over to Canada. And feel like entrepreneurship runs in the fam as a coping mechanism to overcoming adversity and trauma. And yeah, I'm obsessed with personal growth. I'm kind of a bit of a health nut, which of course, we've all got room to improve with optimizations for that. Um, but yeah, I guess according to Business Insider, um, they called me a serial entrepreneur, which is usually a thing that only old men do as a young woman. I was like, that's interesting that they call it like, said it that way. I thought it was funny. Yeah, I'm a dog mama, love to travel, and half the time probably I'm somewhere away currently bouncing between Florida, Saskatoon, and Nashville. And yeah, I think that's a little bit about my background.
I love that. Such a nomad, and that's the best way to be, right? Like if we could all have the spontaneity that you live, I think we'd all be a lot happier. So I love that.
Oh, thank you. I just feel like it brings so much more joy and fun. And who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, hop on a flight. Yesterday, you said when we were talking that you got to say yes to like going on this last minute speaking trip where they're flying you there, which by the way, you're super cool. Can I be like Christine when I grow up? Um, and we're like, now I get to be spontaneous. So I think it's really cool that you've built that for yourself now too.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, I think that the reason why is probably sitting across from me. So, but let's get started talking a little bit about your story because I know that you have been through some shit and that has morphed and changed and really turned you into who you are today. I know that in the course that I take from you, so much of what happened in your life influenced the way that you teach us. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yes, of course. I was reflecting, of course, before we hopped on here because I knew we'd be talking about, the pain, the shit. I was like, great, this is gonna be fun. We love to get vulnerable. Sometimes it sucks, but I think hopefully it'll bring some insight or just even relatability for other people who have gone through similar shit. So yeah, I guess going back to the beginning, when it all began. Um, I was raised partially Christian, but definitely have a ton of religious trauma. And age 7 was the first time that I feel like I experienced a difficulty, adversity that definitely changed how I function and like deep rooted beliefs about myself, the world, men, etc. So when I was 7 was when I first experienced sexual abuse, and it's actually related to the religious trauma. My family's church home was pretty cult-like, to for lack of better words. It was basically a cult. Um, I feel like the spirit of God and what is available with a relationship to faith was broken by men. So it's not like God's fault, is how I view it now. But both of my brothers were actually sexually assaulted from an older man who is at this cult. And this whole cult situation, there was a lot of condemnation, isolation, and they even sold big wooden paddles to the parents at the church so that they could physically punish their kids for sin. Um, And at the time, I had no idea like what sin was. All I knew was that it was painful. Um, so yeah, when my
Yeah.
family eventually got out, they were ostracized and had no community after they left. And because I was so young, I don't remember a lot of the details except for how it affected my family and how they acted socially, spiritually, with their emotions or lack of opening up. Um, so in terms of like the actual effect of it, literally to me, a younger boy from the church who was sexually abused, um, he took what he learned out on me. And I remember it so vividly. He asked me to get naked for him and asked me if he could photograph parts of me and touch me. I was 7 years old. I didn't know that I could say no. And I didn't know that that was someone like coming into my personal space. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't know what that was because I was 7. Um,
Hmm.
and this happened multiple times in a basement room, in a bathroom. And I just remember it, unfortunately, like vividly. And
Of
I
course.
never told anyone it happened, never told my parents, never talked to anyone about it, even after I started going to therapy when I was older for other reasons, for other things going on in my family. Like I had suppressed the memory, like blacked it out, like I literally didn't even remember that it happened. Um, yeah, so that is a crazy thing, I guess, that happened to me. But I know it does happen to a lot of women, not to minimize it, but in different ways, our bodies are preyed on or taken advantage of, and we kind of lose the real meaning of like what it is to have our own sovereignty, our own dominion over our bodies, our souls, like all of that. Um, so I think like subconsciously, or like the paradigm I operated on, because I didn't consciously address it because I was 7, um, I I lost my virginity to a guy who I wasn't actually like, who wasn't treating me like I was an exclusive, girlfriend. I just thought I was supposed to give my body to somebody, so I did. And he was someone who cheated on me and didn't even treat me well. But I just thought, that's what I deserve. Because I think that really affected me deeper than you would think. Because like my family looked like they were put together from the outside looking in. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So I guess through those childhood experiences and not telling anyone, I taught myself that to stay safe, I need to be sexual. To be loved, I need to be sexual and seek that external validation from men. So from like age 16 to 20, and probably before, unfortunately, I was very promiscuous. I shared my body online in an objectifying way and sought likes and attention from anywhere, especially online too. Um, I placed a ton of my worth on my body and never felt good enough. I tried to control the food I ate, body dysmorphic, uh, manipulated eating. And yeah, I just never felt good enough. So I was just running on this paradigm unconsciously with no idea that that's what was going on. Um, Speaking of like social media, I literally had on my bio at one point, I'm from Saskatoon, want a spoon. I don't remember if this was Snapchat or Instagram, but either way, like what? Like that's so ridiculous. Objectifying, sexual, like ew, like I wasn't even available for that. You know what I mean? Like I was still a girl who wanted a long-term relationship. So I was just weird. Like looking back, it's just like it makes sense. Connecting the dots, looking backwards, of course it makes sense. But,
Oh,
you know,
certainly.
I'm not like, yeah, that was a great time. Yeah.
Totally. I think that I'm sure so many people can identify with what you're saying right now. I know I can, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what it feels like to go through these awful things, especially at the hands of something that's supposed to be safe, like God and religion. But I certainly can identify with this idea that, we were all taught that our bodies are the way that we move forward in life or don't, and the way that they look. And I can't imagine how much deeper that would become after such a traumatic experience like what you had when you were very small.
Yeah. Yeah. definitely like trying to get into modeling and thinking if I can't be a model, if I can't get myself thin enough to be a model, then I'll try a different route. And then it was fitness modeling. And then it was, well, after my brother passed away, side tangent, my other older brother, he died from a drug overdose right after I graduated high school. Um, and so I kind of went from this like partying, I want to look cool, uh, situation to actually being like, okay, let's actually try to be healthy and intentional, but it was still on a superficial change to my body way. And that was the first business I started was online fitness. But yeah, it is very wild how some people will turn the things I've been into, victimhood mentality. Oh, why is life happening to me? Poor me. All these horrible things happened to me, which again, yes, of course, you're technically a victim and literally a victim in certain situations. But you also have the choice of what are you going to do with it? Um, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I would agree. It's interesting. The first thing that you did after going through all of this and then losing your brother, who, like I know that the background of that is that that you've mentioned to me before is that your family went through a lot, and so they all had different ways of coping with the experiences that they, grew up with. And so it sounds to me like after all of that, the first thing you did was turn around and try to work in the fitness industry. So that's very interesting. So what do you think that that was initially when you first started working in the fitness industry? What need was that fulfilling?
Hmm, that is a good question. I'm a bit of a psycho, so we'll start with that. And I think it's not a bad thing. But I definitely have always had an obsession of like, how can I make this good? How can I turn this around? What's the
Love
silver
that.
lining? How can this possibly turn into something worthwhile? Because like when shit happens, like there's a reason for it. I really do believe, I've always believed, even when my faith has lacked or when I've steered absolutely away and have doubted everything. I've still at the back of my mind or deep down been like, I believe there's a plan. There's got to be a reason. So I think like after my brother's passing, one of the last conversations we had, he was talking about like how he's never felt better. Of course, he turned back to drugs and relapsed, as addiction tends to do. But he basically said, like, I feel great, I'm fit, I would love to compete in bodybuilding. And so I think a part of it for me was like, he is now not alive and he doesn't have the privilege of life anymore. And so I think Dr. Wayne Dyer, I always think of this quote. It's like he wakes up or woke up in the morning and would just like put his feet on the ground and say, thank you. Thank you for another day of life. And since my brother's passing, it really was like the greatest, it was, even though it sucked, like a huge blessing because it taught me like the worth, the value of life. And so I was like, well, if he can't do that, I want to do that to honor him. And even though it was like a little bit twisted and there was pain within there, and I ended up, pivoting and doing all the things, it did scratch my itch because I had a personal training certification already, loved fitness, loved being in the gym, staying active. It was a good, healthy mental health outlet for me. And I just saw the system of most personal trainers at the gym working one-on-one with people, trading their time for money and stuck, capped, and probably giving more money than is necessary to their bosses. And I was just like, this isn't for me. Like, so I think like my brother's death really pushed me to see what I could make of myself and to not let like fear or what ifs, like what if I fail? What if I suck? You know, stop me. And it helped me to not care what people think about me. Like I feel like whenever I go through a dark season, I just have no shits to give. Like like I would just wear coconut oil in my hair literally to work. Like at one point I had an in-person sales job and I would just show up with like coconut oil in my hair. Like I was just like, I don't care. You can think of me what you want. I was still the number one sales rep when I was like 18. Um, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It certainly answers my question. I love that. Now I know you've had a lot of twists and turns since then. So where did you go from there?
Yes, that is a good question. Um, so alongside like my brother's death and that, of course, impacting my family, like there were lots of fights, arguments, and although of course my parents have love and they like every parent does the best they can, I think just a natural effect of so much chaos going on in the households was I did feel like isolated and neglected and not seen. Um, and so I think I've always felt alone. And my other brother, he was in and out of 22 rehabs and psych wards over the years. Um, Wait, what was your question? Was it what else has happened since then? Was that it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
In whatever direction you want to go.
Cool. Cool. Um, so yeah, I think relationships, business, and health are probably the three areas that have had a lot of ups and downs and all arounds. Um, from relationships, attracting the wrong men because of the things that I hadn't worked through and was, my attachment style was like anxious, avoidant, and I didn't have healthy attachment and I would suppress, avoid, numb, distract, all the things. Um, and then health wise, well, actually, I'll stick with the relationship tangent and then come back to health. Um, I was with a man for 3 years and I had this deep desire to get married. And I was kind of like, well, I thought I wanted to marry this guy after a month or two. Like, of course, it takes time to put it together and see if it's a fit. But my thought was after a month or two, like, this could work. And 3 years in, he still wasn't there. Went to a Tony Robbins conference and I decided that it wasn't a fit because I wanted a guy to pursue me to the ends of the earth and marry me and build a family. And so I met a different person at this event who I actually thought was just a mentor, like an older man mentor who I thought was a decade older than me. Um, and so after this event, we ended up breaking up and I went off to Bali for the second time. And of course, I was just seeking spiritual healing and all the things. So this man who I met actually ended up like pursuing me very hard. And, I was 22, had no clue what I was doing. And he presented a ring to me and proposed to me after like 2 days of being together, which is psycho. Like that's wild. Hindsight 2020, but he ended up being much, much older than he told me he was. He had an ex-wife and kids. And I think the reason I got to this place of even running off with this guy is because I had given up on myself. I had felt like after all these business startups, which at this point I had 5 or 6, I think it was 5 business startups by this point, ranging from real estate development, aesthetics business, 2 consignment businesses, uh, social media management, whatever. So I was like, nothing I'm doing is creating the fulfillment that I want. I feel like I can't actually help people the way I want to. I can make money from these other things, but I am lacking, like, why am I here? I'm lacking purpose. And I thought just running off with a guy who said he would do it for me would solve all my problems. So naturally, he knew my deepest pain points and deepest desires and sold me on that vision. And so
Mm.
I went off with him, got engaged. I didn't even tell anyone. I had one friend, maybe two, who knew. But yeah, when I found out that he wasn't who he said he was and was kind of violent and threatening, I escaped that situation, went back home, and had another transformation within where I think it was just the rock bottom of like, oh, I'm back in my parents' basement because I just escaped this scary situation. I was clinging to family. I was like, oh God, what is this? Who am I? What am I doing? And I felt so low and down on myself that I had given up on myself, didn't think I was good enough, quit. Like I quit. And it was from this dark place where I thought, I have nothing left. I have nothing left to give. What's the point of being here? That is when I came up with the current business that I have. At the time, it was called the Queen Life Academy. And its purpose was showing women that they can turn their pain into their purpose and their passion into profit with an online business and have time and location freedom, helping people, doing something meaningful. And so I don't know, I've just never let myself stay in a dark hole too long. I mean, yeah, of course it's important to feel and process and like not just pretend it's not happening, but you can't live there. You can visit there, but you can't live there. So
Well
yeah,
said.
thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's kind of on the business side. I have two online businesses right now, but going back to the relationships that got me into that situation, I ended up getting back together with the guy I was with for 3 years because he was like, I had this revelation that I actually do want to marry you. And I was like, really? That's all I want. Like, I just want to get married and have kids. And that's still low key, I still want that. I just feel like, it's just a part of life. You just want to experience it with no rush. But anyway, got back together with him, but we didn't take any time apart. There was no time to heal, to process, to really get to know ourselves. And I've been in back-to-back relationships basically since I was 16. Um, so yeah, ended up avoiding the root of misalignment in values in our relationship because we didn't really know them. We just kind of like were talking the talk of personal development and self-awareness, but we didn't really live aligned with them. So yeah, we got back together and I had a couple really great years in business. Hi, Arnie, are you going to come visit? Hi, puppy. Um, okay. And I think through that experience of like getting what I had wanted before, I didn't feel worthy of having it once I had it. So I had a dysregulated nervous system and was like, I
Mm.
don't deserve this. Why do I have this now? Because I was so used to not having what I wanted. And so I did what I could to push it away, both the relationship and the business after it started working and I was seeing all this success. Um, and so I turned to like I became literally addicted to lustful behavior. I would escape from my relationship and daydream, porn, you name it, whatever. I don't need to get into extreme details here. Um, but just that chemical release I got helped me not feel the unworthiness that I was feeling.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, after that relationship, I self-sabotaged it. It blew up. After it was over, I moved to Nashville, lived there for about 2 years. And for the first 6 months to a year, like I really tried to fight for that relationship. I just couldn't let it go because I was codependent and had an unhealthy attachment, which is so fascinating looking back because I feel like so released from that. And any relationship right now, it feels so good, even though I'm in a healthy relationship with a new person now. Um, it's like a crazy difference to be in a healthy relationship, but also to started with a base of me being healthy and leaning
Mm.
on God instead of my own need for self-control. But yeah, during that move, I gained 40 pounds, which is not like me based on what you heard me say about like needing to control my image and feel good enough by looking a certain way. So it helped me honestly like let go of a lot of that in different ways. Um, yeah. So I think some of the strength that I found through all those different seasons with relationships, failing and hurting and all the things, was just kind of this little voice. Um, if whether you think it's like God interfering or a little voice, whatever, just telling me like there's more for you. He's not done with you yet. Hang on, keep going. You are meant for so much more. All of this is for a reason, and you're not finished yet.
Absolutely. Wow. What a roller coaster of experiences to go through. Um, I see so much of what you talk about in the course now, like with even more clarity, of like there's this self-sabotage component that you really came back to over and over and over again, this kind of feeling of not enoughness, that kept creating such a deep um valley in what was supposed to be these peaks. And what's really interesting is that it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the move to Nashville, the, on your own piece of time, feeding yourself, enjoying being part of that whole experience really gave you a pause from everything, and an ability to step back. Because I see so much strength in you since I've met you. So, am I correct in saying that that's what that kind of was for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say so. It's interesting because I feel like a big part of what fueled the initial mission for this business in the first place was that feeling of not enoughness and wanting to help other people uh, physicalize the thing that they want, despite them not feeling like they're good enough to do that thing. And on the way, I
Amazing.
mean, it does keep coming up because it's like if you're used to operating on a certain set of programs and beliefs for the majority of your life, they're bound to sneak in. That's why it's so important to have a higher power and people in your life to help you get out of it. But I think the biggest difference that I found living in Nashville, and again, this is ironic, I think, just based on the fact that I mentioned this religious trauma, was that I healed the root of my religious pain. I went to church in a Bible Belt and actually read the Bible. And I was like, because I used to be that person who was like, ew, Jesus. Like when people say, like, I heart Jesus, I was like, that's weird. Like, how could you say that? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I was like, the Son, brothers, boys, they're bad. I was just like, ew, ew,
Yeah.
just no, no, thank you. And
Well,
I
especially
healed.
with your upbringing, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it took a lot to work through that. And I think that was the piece that was missing previously because I did therapy. I have spent over 150K on different personal development, business, personal development types, events, mentorships, programming, all the things. Um, all the different alternative healing therapies you can think of, like somatic healing, you know, uh, what is this? Song bowls, like literally any version you can think of. I think the biggest thing that changed going to Nashville was kind of switching from the new age spirituality to more of a faith-based. It feels more grounded to me because of maybe the past, but also I just have an actual relationship to God now, whereas before it was just a relationship to what I wanted.
Mm.
And manifestation. I can get whatever I want. It was very self-centered. It was very against the character of what I think someone has when they actually care about other people. So yeah, it was interesting because even though the business was helping people before, I still focused a lot on like what could I get from it, which, when I was having $50,000 months when I was 22, 23, I was like, I don't deserve this. This is weird. Like, but I was like, haha, like I'm significant now. I've been featured in magazines now. And so like those external achievements were what I was putting on a pedestal and worshiping along with lust instead of like the creator, which I believe we have one creator and the universe is the created. Like the universe didn't just, I don't think the Big Bang Theory is a thing. But again, we're not going to get into that. But I really worked on my relationship to God during this time.
That's so cool. I like I can see like you spent all this time, all this money, all these different healing modalities. You went up, you went down, you went up, you went down, and through all of these wild experiences, which you've had so much life, which is amazing, for such a young woman, right? And but what's interesting is that the thing that healed you is the thing that started the pain, like it's
Mhm.
just it was in a different package than, what man had kind of bastardized God
Mhm.
into what was a true relationship. That is a
Yeah.
full circle moment.
It really truly is. And I think like a lot of people have issues with religion, which is understandable. I think it's legalistic, it's controlling. There's these laws you have to follow, or else you're like bad. And I think there really is a purpose behind those laws and those rules. Um, but yeah, it is very full circle. And now I have so much faith and joy beyond what makes sense and peace even when like there's chaos going on around me. And I just feel like I don't need to strive as much. I'm not as externally living. Like it just feels a lot better. Um, I feel like
Wow.
my best self, not in the way of like achievement or money or how I look, but just like who I'm here to be. It feels
Yeah,
more like, when you're like a child and you dream about like the possibilities with nothing interfering to limit that or, twist it. Like that's how I feel, even though I'm an adult now. Like I just have this childlike wonder and joy, and I just want everyone to be able to turn whatever they've gone through into that feeling because nothing beats it.
absolutely. And that's exactly what you do. And what's really interesting is I heard you say I wanted achievement and money in the body and all those sorts of things, but what's really interesting is that as a result of this more peaceful place that you've come to, you do have so much achievement. You have such a beautiful body. You've really gotten yourself into this place that you were chasing before for the wrong reasons, but have now so naturally come to you, or it seems that way anyway, by having this relationship to God, and then transmuting that experience and turning towards people in a different way, in a way that the business that you now have created is for the better good of the people as opposed to the better good of you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. You were very sweet. Um, Yeah, it's definitely interesting because I think the personal development industry, self-help, people have read those books since they were kids. Like that was me, picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was young, have been obsessed,
Mhm.
even through my different stages of, being distracted in different seasons of life. Like always comes back to like, how can I optimize this life? Um, Instead of just like journaling affirmations and trying to get the next thing. Like now I pray, I go to church, I have like I literally have conversations with God, and I try to my best to like understand the messages and the morals that are described in the stories in the Bible. And I'm not religious, but I do think living like a Christ-like way does lead to that kind of inner peace and that freedom. Um, so yeah, it's definitely been interesting um, to get to here. And even just the ability to like stand up for what I believe to be true, like saying things that need to be said, even when no one agrees with it. Like a big thing I am sharing lately is like F the system, healthcare, big pharma, big food. I'm just like, why? And then even women working in the 9 to 5 structure when we have a hormonal cycle that doesn't allow for us to actually take care of ourselves. So I'm just like, I'm actually saying what I think now, and it feels like I have more authority because it's not my authority. It's like literal authority of how things are in the world, and I don't need to make shit up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to share from your personal story to help other people, and then another to be able to share things that other people are like struggling with too.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so you've had some big shifts in the recent years. So what can you talk about now? Like what are you doing now that's really feeling good?
That is a good question. What I'm doing now, it feels good. I would say spending more time with people that I love. Although I've had time freedom and location freedom for 8 years now, I think I didn't really know what I had when I had it, so I wasn't appreciating it before. And now it feels so good to just actually spend time with my family and to be able to do it in a way where I'm not like projecting or thinking they should all be different than they are, but actually just having like an unconditional like love and appreciation to spend time with people as they are, like come as you are, kind of mentality. So yeah, time with my dog, time with my boyfriend and my parents, because life is short and I just want more time. Like time is so precious. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Extraordinary. That is so great. That is truly and that truly is a story of of turning your pain into something of power. You've gone through all of these experiences, you've gone through this full circle experience, and now you're in this place where you're helping people, and you're helping people from a place that feels like an overflow as opposed to pouring from an empty cup, like it's just it sounds really, like I said, truly like a full circle moment. I'm curious about what you might tell yourself back in this place where you are feeling completely not enough. I'm thinking about the parents' basement moment. What might be some advice that you'd hand that person?
Mm, great question. I think what I would tell myself in all these different moments of struggle and pain and thinking I should be somewhere else. Why am I here? Why me? Talk about it. Ask for help. Keep no secrets. Don't protect other people at the expense of yourself. And only take advice from people who have the results that you want instead of just advice from people who might have ulterior motives. Yeah.
Mm,
And
fantastic advice. Super solid. I love that. I'm going to write that down somewhere. So good.
I love it.
Especially, yeah, don't take advice from people who don't have the results that you want. Love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, Arnie, it's okay. He's like growling at me now. He's like, feed me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the other thing in hindsight too, I would tell myself like you are enough now, not if, not when, not later, or maybe, or if you change XYZ about yourself, but you are enough now without changing a thing, and you have everything you need within you to do what you want to make a difference and to help other people.
Extraordinary. And I think that there will be a lot of people listening that really do need to hear that. Okay, so if somebody wants to move forward in their business in such an impactful way where they are people focused and not self focused, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, I love to connect. I would love to hear from whoever is listening. I have a podcast as well. It's called Rising Life-Changing Online Courses. And on Instagram, can you hear Arnie in the back? Can you hear
Yeah, a
him?
little bit. He's all good. He's cute.
Oh, okay, okay. Good. Yeah, he is. He is. He's super cute. And on Instagram, my Instagram is at the Sophia Rising.
Okay, awesome. That sounds great. I will link all of that. I know that there will be lots of people who want to listen to your podcast. And I know that we've mentioned this, but I know that in your business, you really focus on people who are health professionals and that are wanting to create time and location freedom. Is that all correct?
Yes, this is correct. So I work with a lot of health professionals, anything from naturopathic doctors, nurse injectors, chiropractors, nutritionists, and then sometimes it's like hairstylists or people in the beauty industry, like lash extensionists, eyebrow tattoo artists. Yeah, so it kind of varies, but I always call it like health professionals and rebels. So it's people who are like, I want to help people and I'm going to F the system. In other words, like I want time freedom. I want to be able to help more people without trading my time for it. And uh, sometimes that comes from different industries. So
I love it, Sophia. Okay, sounds great. Well, I will link all of that. Thank you so much for being here, being so vulnerable and sharing your story. All of the messiness and all the beautiful moments in between. I know there are many people who feel that their story is not linear, and yours wasn't, and that's okay, and that's beautiful. And so I think that a lot of people listening will get so much from this.
thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. And I really hope so. It's been so good to be here and appreciate you having me. And yeah, for anyone listening, you're definitely not alone. Your mess is also a message. You can do something meaningful with it. And yeah, we can rise above and create new circumstances from it.